Today we're going to talk about some of the fears that people have when they think about investing in multifamily and why they sit on the sidelines. These are things that have come up over the years that we talk about with certain clients, friends, but I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's, in many cases, relatively easy solutions, but it's not always available to people. So let's dig in. Number one, it's the fear of the financial risk. And with many people, if you're buying a new property, let's say it's a new 5-plex and it's got tenants in place and you get a new loan and one of those tenants leaves, it's easy to sit there and get nervous. The reality is you still have 4 tenants that are paying. You don't have 100% vacancy, as opposed to if I had a single family house, that tenant moves out, now I've got 100% vacancy. Very different situation. So when I look at the financials and I look at people need a place to live, I only invest in these certain demographic areas where there's a lack of housing, where the job growth is high, where there's not a lot of vacancy. Those are areas where I want to be. And the difference on that is if I am a general partner, meaning that I am running the deal myself, I'm the one that's signing the loan, I'm the one that's doing all the research. If I am a limited partner, that means that I am trusting the experience of somebody else. I'm putting my trust in this person who has done all that work, and I'm also not signing on the loan. So in a limited partner situation, the maximum amount of investment you can lose is just the money that you invested in the deal. You do not have personal guarantees or anything else that come back to other assets that you own. Number 2, property management challenges. Now, I felt like I could write a book on this one as well. Back in the day, we had a real struggle finding property managers, and every time we found someone that we thought we liked, they were extremely reactive. They were not proactive. So half the time I would call them, or I would find situations that were happening and they would be golfing or they would be at a Giants game, and they were not in the mix with the tenants and with myself. And that was really irritating. So it was a struggle to find somebody that then all of a sudden they can communicate with the tenants in a respectful manner. They can very clearly set lines of what's appropriate and what's not, because sometimes things get a little weird in terms of when you can drop off checks, when you can come into the office, how much updating you can do to your unit without asking for permission, all these things. So the property management position has to be someone that is respected, somebody that is liked, someone that has grace, someone that can have a professional but friendly relationship with the tenant. And if you have somebody that is not that person, if they're just the authoritarian, what ends up happening is people start doing stuff behind their back. If you have somebody that's lackadaisical, then somebody's just gonna do stuff behind their back too. It's like you're trying to find that right mix, and it can be a struggle. And when you find the right person, you hang on to them, and they really, really make sure that your asset is taken care of going forward. One of the best hires you can make. Number 3, economic market volatility. Now, a lot of times people have questions regarding people's ability to pay rents. And even during COVID, we really only had, with all the units that we manage, we had one person that gave us grief on being able to pay. One out of a lot. And so the reality was they valued their housing and they valued the relationship because, number 2, just like I said, their relationship with the property manager was so good. They wanted to make sure that we were in good graces. But that said, when we talk about economic market volatility in multifamily, especially compared to, let's say, a flip, where I'm in and out in 60 days, the minute I buy the property, I have to sell in 60 days because that money I'm borrowing, I'm usually borrowing at like 10% money, that's super costly. So I have to have a forced hard exit. When I buy multifamily, I'm riding the waves. And usually the income that comes in is so good that I don't have to be forced into a decision unless I absolutely want to. And so understanding that when you have income producing assets, it gives you that freedom. And when you sit there and go, well, what about bad times? Well, bad times in real estate and bad times in economics usually mean that multifamily still continues strong because it is a cash producing asset. Other things can go down in different asset classes, but multifamily usually is a great hedge against those volatile markets. Number 4, lack of real estate knowledge. Now, there is so much information out there right now. it is like drinking from the fire hose, and it's hard to know what's true and what's not. So there's a couple books that I would highly suggest in terms of just getting you started. Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad Poor Dad are kind of like the foundational books that you start with, and then you start building from there. But I highly recommend increasing your financial knowledge, increasing your real estate knowledge, and then start hanging out in those groups, whether they're investor groups, whether you're going on Bigger Pockets and you are asking questions. You have to insert yourself into that community so that you start understanding that language, whether it's GRMs or cap rates or financing terms, it doesn't really matter. You just need to get in. It's the whole point of like, I can teach you to speak Spanish, or you can just go to Mexico and live there for 6 months. You're probably gonna have a lot better success with the immersion of living there than by anything that someone like me could teach. So that's what I highly recommend, is making sure that you are increasing your financial knowledge, and in the meantime, surrounding yourself with people that are doing it as well. Find mentors that are doing it or have done it so that you can learn from them along the way as well. Number 5, tenant-related concerns. Now this is a huge one, especially if you're in California like me with landlord-tenant law, but really most of this can be summed up in the fact that if you have an amazing property manager and you're dealing with things proactively and you're jumping on incident calls, you're taking care of your tenants at a high level, you're really mitigating these risks as much as humanly possible. I definitely agree that you need to have an incident log, so if a tenant calls in, you have some system to be able to take care of things in a clear and transparent manner, so there's never any issues. If they say, I didn't hear from you, you say, I called you here, I had something on your door here, and you have some ammunition if you need to come back and talk with them about it. But really, ultimately, having those conversations with tenants, being proactive and making sure they feel like you're on their side and you are there within 24 hours if there's an incident, is a huge part of making sure that your tenants have a good experience living in your housing. So to sum up, those are a couple of the fears that we end up dealing with quite a bit. There's a whole lot more, but I would tell you there is a big difference between trying to be the owner or general partner of a deal and run everything yourself, or sitting there and going, I want to be a limited partner. I like all this stuff, or I don't like all this stuff, but I don't want to be involved. I want to trust somebody else to run this. I just want to make the investment. And that's where the limited partnership comes in. That's why we have the relationships we have. So if you have any other questions, you want to talk about it further, by all means, please reach out.